So today we're talking about podcasts. Who on a regular basis listens to podcasts in here? Sort of. Have you ever listened to a podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just not regular.
Gotcha. So podcasting has kind of had this revival, I feel like, in the past few years. But podcast is really useful because it gives marketers and business owners everywhere a new way to reach their audience. People are kind of hooked on listening to podcasts. If they're well conceived, they can be effective. They're definitely portable, convenient, and intimate in a way. And it's a great way to deliver and produce content. It's a great way to build ongoing relationships with your clients, employees, or your constituents. So let's take a look at some numbers when it comes to podcasts. Interest in podcast listening shows no sign of slowing down. Listenership has actually grown from 9% of the U.S. population to 26% in the past 10 years. This was some data from 2018. So it's increased more and more with each year. With the emergence of smart speakers, connected cars, and other ways to consume podcasts, it's difficult to say that the data might look like in the future. I assume that it's going to continue to grow if we look at the current trends. Besides, to anticipate that, it will become an even more diverse array of options for listeners and podcasters. New listening patterns, behaviors, and platforms will introduce new challenges and opportunities. So once again, we can try to teach you the current platforms, but it's always smart to look ahead. So this podcast consumption by the apps, we can see Apple Podcast is the largest portion, 62.5%. That's probably because Apple Podcast is a default app that's on all Apple products whenever you purchase them. We can see Spotify is starting to increase. We'll see this in the next slide. Stitcher is actually a subscription service, so you actually have to subscribe to Stitcher. A lot of people are putting premium content on there. Google Podcast and some others we're not seeing as a large stakeholder in this group. At 52% on this graph, Apple Podcast is driving more listening than all other sources combined. Like I said earlier, this should be no surprise given that the first ever version of podcast listening platform came pre-installed on all iOS devices. This kind of removed a significant hurdle that every third-party app encounters when trying to gain listeners, is to get them to actually download the app. It'll be a while before any other platform comes close to catching up to Apple Podcasts, but we can see that Spotify is getting close. Spotify is gaining steam. Spotify's aggressive push for podcasting has really heated up in the past year or so, and it's working. Putting the leading music streaming services marketing weight behind podcasts has manifested in several ways. This includes promoting podcasts on its front page as part of a significant foray into content discovery, and creating podcasts with some of the world's most famous talents. So unlike podcasts, where they relied on other people to create the content and voluntarily upload it to their site, or voluntarily have it on their site, Spotify is actually taking it a step further and worked with influencers to develop their own podcasts. Stitcher is different in that aspect. They have a subscription service, and so people will do one or two things. If they want premium content, they will do a Patreon, and so you go to Patreon to listen, or you can pay the subscription cost and listen to it through Stitcher. So there's some other ways for those influencers to make a little bit more money. Interest in podcast listening shows no sign of slowing down. Listenership has grown. Oh, wait, we already did that. Yes. Okay, so podcasts make information personal. In a podcast, the content is communicated directly to you, the listener, either verbally or through video. So it is a form of direct communication. Can somebody tell me what direct communication is? So what's interpersonal communication?
Like small group, small group personal communication.
And what is one of the main aspects of interpersonal communication?
Face to face or?
And so for face-to-face, what's happening?
There's an interaction.
Huh? So we're sending and we're,
Receiving
what are we sending and receiving?
or
An
information.
interaction.
So we can, if I'm talking to you right now, I'm sending information, and even if you're not talking, you're sending what back to me?
Nonverbals.
Nonverbal communication, right? So no matter what's being said, there's always a sending and receiving of information. Direct communication is the absence of feedback. So this can even be like in a work setting, like if somebody's telling you what to do, they're not really open to receiving any feedback. But for mass communication, direct communication, we're sending something out. This is a speech that conveys a clear message or that clearly directs action. Direct communication is often used in the workplace to ensure clarity regarding who has the authority to give orders and what the orders are, but direct communication may be used where there's no room for discussion or compromise. An essential component of direct communication is there's no feedback being received. So even though there is no form of direct feedback, this can portray intimacy. This is a much more intimate way of getting information out than reading an email, reading a newsletter, or a document. If people feel like they can sit down and chat with you over a cup of coffee, it's probably more likely that they would buy into whatever you are offering or trying to sell. So letting people have insight into what your day today looks like gives them a way of getting to know you, your brand, or your company without having to actually step into your office. This gives your listeners a chance to see the real you instead of guessing who you are by the tone of your voice, by the tone or attitude through like a blog post. So they can actually hear your voice and they can make some more connections that way. They can choose to either listen or watch your show. A lot of people will do podcasts through the typical platforms, but they'll also record it and put it on YouTube. Podcast listeners are everywhere. You probably already have an audience and don't realize it. It's up to you to figure out what persona to target, what your angle is, and to start podcasting whenever you're ready. Okay, convenient and easy to consume. So we've kind of talked about it before, but when we take a look at the platforms that are out there and the connectivity to our cell phones, our cars, our smart speakers, smart TVs, they really are easy to consume. Once you subscribe to a podcast feed, new podcasts are automatically downloaded to your computer, your phone, as soon as they are available. You can listen to them at your convenience. People are carrying around an entire library of podcasts in their pockets every day. Your listeners will be able to listen to you on the go and be able to comprehend much more information and relaxed conversation than a traditional website, blog post, social media post, anything like that. Another plus to podcast is it's a really good way to kind of cut costs but still have that maximum reach. Because podcasts are delivered digitally, they eliminate many costs associated with other forms of communication. So when you think of mailing things out, you have postage and you have to print those things out. So you have to buy the ink and the paper and the service to actually do so. So we can also look at things like commercials. Those cost quite a bit, or any type of promotions. Those are going to cost us. They can also reduce meeting costs. And so this kind of goes back to maybe like a more office setting. So if you want to communicate with a large audience or a large segment of your organization, let's say if you're working for like National Angus Association, instead of having a convention or a meeting, you might be able to convey some stuff through podcasts. So they're easy to archive, they're easy to update. And then depending on how robust of a setup you want, setting up an initial podcast can be relatively cheap. You can set up a high quality podcast in one afternoon. So you can just imagine how high your return on investment is going to be with something that has such low input with such a high potential for impact. And we're going to take a look at what a good setup looks like and where you can find all this stuff later on today. Once again, it's time efficient when it comes to communicating. You can listen to podcasts while you do other things at work or at home or during your commute. Some types of meetings can also be eliminated in favor of podcasts, saving you time and improving productivity. So once again, it's just an overall positive thing for a lot of people in a lot of organizations. It'll fit very well. Okay, so here's where we kind of start getting into the back end of podcasting. So I think for us, it's easy to look at the front end and go, okay, yeah, we need mics, we need something to say, and we need to edit it. But I think at that point, a lot of people maybe don't know exactly what happens next. Once you have it, how do you distribute it? So once a podcast resides on your computer, you can take the podcast with you and listen wherever you want to, or you can transfer the podcast to a personal media player like your phone or your iPod. And this is all possible through an RSS feed. The RSS feed makes a podcast downloadable, searchable. And the other cool thing about podcasts being portable is they're a relatively small file, so it can be easily streamed. This is probably pretty important whenever we're talking about some people in a more rural audience and may not have high-speed internet. It's an on-demand technology. Listeners decide what they want to hear, when they want to hear it, and how they want to hear it. So on one hand, this means you're competing for their eyes and their ears. On the other hand, this means that if they are subscribing to your podcast, there's an excellent chance they're actually going to get the information that you're providing them. There are some disadvantages of a podcast. A podcast is an audio form, and so when we look at accessibility, we can have an issue. But you can actually attach the transcript to your RSS feed in the notes, and so somebody can read what's being said, or you can post the transcript online. So there are some ways around it. There's a really great transcribing service. It's called rev.com. I used it for my some research projects during my PhD. It's like 8 minutes of transcribing for $10, and if you get like a free trial. So if you have a new email address, then so I went through like 6 email addresses to get an hour worth of stuff transcribed, but hey, it worked. Okay. All right, so let's jump into how do these things actually work. So by subscribing to a podcast, you're using an RSS feed. Users do not have to seek out files that they're interested. They find the title of the podcast and they subscribe to it, and it's delivered to them. So instead of searching out the files, they're received automatically using an aggregator. So an aggregator would be Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. Users can then listen, watch previously recorded media files at their convenience. So Spotify and Stitcher and Apple Podcasts kind of acts as like a search engine in some way. It kind of presents you with things that you might be interested in and allows you to search for specific titles. A podcast-only RSS feed sends audio content across the internet, hitting all sorts of directories and updating them as new content creation occurs. So once you've created your RSS feed and you upload new content, the aggregators will go and scan the internet and update their libraries with your newest episodes. An RSS feed will push your audio content to your listeners, so it is in front and center of their podcast listening platform. So whenever I get, like on Tuesdays, I get 3 of them that are new, and so I get that push notification that says, hey, there's new content. RSS stands for Really Simple Syndication. Some people say that it might actually stand for Rich Site Summary, but at its heart, RSS is just a simple text file with basic updated information. So things like news pieces, articles, kind of that sort of thing, all can have RSS feeds associated to it. And I'm sure everyone has actually seen the RSS symbol on like the bottom of some websites. It's kind of going away for everything except for podcasts. It's like this little symbol. So yeah, they're kind of becoming a little irrelevant except for podcasts. So let's talk about the best file format and bitrate for a podcast. So an MP3 is probably going to be the best. Whenever you get done editing something, it'll probably be like, or when you get done recording something, it'll be in a WAV format. And so you'll need to save that WAV as an MP3, and we can see the different bit rates. So what's the difference between stereo and mono?
One sound.
Yeah, so you have a left and a right input. Mono, the left and right are the same, where stereo, they can be different. So if you're just doing, mostly spoken word, the mono is fine. If for whatever reason you're doing music, I follow a few DJs and they'll put out, new sets every week or maybe bi-weekly, and those will probably be in stereo. Have y'all listened to a 3D music on YouTube? So they use stereo and they design it in a way that it sounds like you're actually at a concert. And so the music can actually, like if you visualize it, the music will move all the way around you. Whoa. And so like when it's behind you, it really sounds like it's coming from behind you.
Surround sound, but
Yeah.
That's cool.
But you have to have like speaker headphones in, because if you use a speaker, it sounds like it's just coming from one speaker. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Okay, so we're going to take a look at here at the end. We're going to take a look at Buzzsprout, and they are one of many platforms that'll help you set up an RSS feed. Once you have that RSS feed, we'll take a look at how you go about getting that to Apple Podcasts. But it's actually very, very simple. So let's talk about some of the content. You need a opening and a closing, right? And typically an opening will have some type of music attached to it or a theme song. Same thing with the closing. I think most of the ones that I listen to will have some closing music. I think a typical pattern is that your opening might have words attached to it, and the closing has the words stripped away. It's like most sitcoms. We'll go that way through opening and closing. But you don't have to have it. It's up to you. For me, I think consistency and having clearly defined segments are important. So, I know this is the opening because I hear the music. I know this is the section where they answer listener questions and so forth. I know this is the closing because I hear it. For the artwork, Apple Podcasts does have specifications. So you can see the minimum and the maximum pixels. 1400 by 1400, 3000 by 3000. So what does that mean, your artwork? What's the aspect ratio of your artwork? Yeah, 1 by 1. It's going to be a square. 72 DPI. What does DPI stand for? Dots per inch. And that is our what? And that's the what? Sorry, the resolution. Yeah. Go. Some of those media design skills stuck around. JPEG or PNG. So we see that a PNG is up there, and a PNG is what? What kind of art does a PNG not work well with? You remember raster and vector?
It is,
Is it print media that doesn't look like
Yeah, so if we took a picture, is that raster or vector? Raster. And PNG is a vector-based because we can only include so many colors, right? So JPEG or PNG, and then RGB color space. RGB stands for, and then what does CMYK stand for?
For like cerulean,
no,
yellow,
Yellow.
It's
magenta, yellow.
Cyan, magenta, yellow, and
black.
black. K stands for black. Yeah. Y'all remember which one's additive and which one's subtractive?
CMYK is additive, right?
I don't know.
Oh my god.
Okay, so let's take a look at Fiverr. Has anyone ever used Fiverr before?
Yes.
Okay. So,
They have a lot of impersonators on there.
what do you mean?
They have like, would you like a Matthew McConaughey voice?
Oh, yeah.
Like Samuel L. Jackson, like, because whenever we made that video for CMP Productions, we were like, what if we had Matthew McConaughey?
So I don't know about y'all, but I played one musical instrument in my life, and that was a long time ago. And nobody wants to hear, no one wants to hear that on a podcast.
Wait, sorry, what you say?
I said, I don't know about y'all, but I've only played one musical instrument in my life, and nobody wants to hear that as an opening. I played the trombone.
Oh, no, I would love to hear that.
No. Oh, man.
You know, if I had like good little setup, that would be a nice little side gig. I don't know if anyone would buy my voice, but I'd try.
I remember when the Circle tour came and you did the speaking part, the main speaking part. They were like so impressed. And I'm like, well, yeah, and like with all that you've done, like, wow.
Dang, I'm gonna sell my voice. Sell my voice. I feel like they'd be like, where's my voice? There's my phone. What do you do?
I honestly reset this password 10 minutes ago.
That's, oh my God.
Well, I mean, we've been in here for half an hour, so 40 minutes ago. And I've already forgotten it.
So the other, like, a couple weeks ago, so I have these neighbors in my apartment,
Uh-oh.
and they live under me, and they've been there for one evening, I'm going home, and they're always so nice, and like invite me in and stuff, and so finally I said yes, and he was like, come in, come out and drink. I'm like, okay. So I go inside, and it is the weirdest night ever, but there's this, the thing we're getting, okay, so there's this, it's like it's a bunch of guys, but then there's this one girl who's asleep on the couch, and as soon as I walk in, she like resurrects, and she's like, hi, I'm like, hi, and she like sends me down business cards. And she's like, aren't those cute? I'm like, yeah, they are. And they were pretty cute. And I pick them up. And it was for her OnlyFans. She was passing out business cards for her OnlyFans. And I don't know why I asked. I said, you can say no, but can I see your OnlyFans?
Was she like, yeah, for $9.99 a month?
Let me have a little free sneak peek. Oh, wrong with you. Oh my gosh. Because I didn't know it was OnlyFans.
Well,
I was like,
I don't think that was the purpose of it, but.
I see, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my word. I told her, I was like, I admire your confidence. She was like, thank you. Yeah. And then I saw her like a couple days later.
What?
Awesome. Weird things happen, man. It was, yeah. Weird time. No kidding. Yeah, I made business cards for her.
Oh.
Yes. And you know what? They were really cool business cards. Yeah. They were like holographic, and it was like eyelashes on like a pastel background. They were cool, and so I thought she was like an esthetician or something. Yeah, but she was like a yeah. Nope. No, she's not. No, she's not. I was like, it was just a weird night. I tried to speak Spanish. Yeah. I tried to speak Spanish. One of the guys put shampoo in his hair. It's dry hair. It was a weird night.
This just keeps getting crazier and crazier.
I know. It was weird. It was weird. You know, I went back. No, I've been invited. Every Friday, they knock on our door. Because you can hear, they're under, you can hear their music. Like, above us. It's so nice. They knock on the door though, and they're like, hey, like, we're partying, you want to come over? And I'm like, oh, I was miserable the last, like, oh, I can't do it. They're very nice people though.
Okay, so this is Fiverr. So you can come on here and look for things that you need. So we're going to take a look at a couple of music pieces that I had ordered, but you can even come in here and say, podcast music.
Is this where you got your music for your...
Yeah. And so there are people in here that'll, that are saying that they can do stuff. And it's kind of up to you to read, the reviews, look at the 5-star, or how many 5-star ratings they have and stuff. But once you start, you pay. So let's say we're going to use this guy. So we're going to do $5. There are different levels. So the basic 2-day delivery, back and spine, source file, and 3D mock-up of the cover for our CD album. I'm sorry. With the premium, we get all 3 of these. The basic, we just get the design that's iTunes ready. But so there's different levels. After you order it, they'll want you to write what you want, and they will work with you. So like this one says unlimited revisions. Some people will have a limit on how many revisions. So just kind of do some research, be aware of what you're buying. So here are some things that I've ordered before. Okay, this one wasn't great. Okay, so he said produce a podcast intro for you, and for $7, which was my first. So I told him that I wanted maybe somewhere between Texas country and folk. I think this song has some cool elements to it. I can't remember what song it was.
So, let's retrace. You started growing your business with Fiverr, which has thousands of freelancers and hundreds of
Oh, okay, The House Fire. So everyone know that song? And he said, sorry, can't really do that. So this is what he gave me. He literally took the song off of YouTube. And he gave it to me again.
Yeah, so illegally? Yeah.
That's all he did. So so after talking with him a little bit, what he said he would do would be like take the music that I wanted and he would develop like the voiceover and put the voice over the music, like pan the music out and stuff like that. So we kind of got, yeah. So the next one was this one. This one was a little bit more expensive, but I think it turned out better. Did he give me the... Oh, those were all the individual pieces of it. Well, anyways, so worked with that one, worked with another person. This was one that somebody made. I think what they ended up doing is like there's some programs out there that you like type in the notes, like a musical score, and you just tell it what instrument you want it to be, and it'll auto-generate the music. Yeah, but you can tell it's like not really somebody playing the instrument, you know? Anyway, so I thought that one was okay.
Was that one supposed to sound like the Broken Window Serenade?
I think I gave him the same kind of like vibe. That was kind of the vibe that I wanted. But this guy, I wish I could find like the final... Oh, yeah, here's the final one for this guy.
Write your own ones.
So like real, I just imagine like a wagon, like, you know, like some pioneers. Anyway, so he gave me, I asked him for like all the segments of it, and so he had all the instruments separated out, and so I kind of went in there and turned some, I think I turned like the violin off and made the drums a little bit louder, and the electric guitar came in at the end. So anyway, so that you can do that as well. They will also, there's also people on there that'll like design the cover art for you. Oh, I think I have them right here. Yeah. So like as an example, like how they'll work with you. So instead of these cactus, they had the Arizona, like, yeah, like the sequoia, not the, whatever those are. Yeah, like the ones with the arms. And I was like, yeah, we don't actually have those here. Those are actually like only in that state park of Arizona. Could you put in some prickly pear? And then in the back, he had like a mesa. And I was like, hey, instead of the mesa, can you put in the lighthouse? And so I sent him a picture of the lighthouse, and he put this in here. So they'll work with you. And then once again, I was able to get the Illustrator file. So if I ever need to change it, I can.
That's really cool.
So I think Fiverr is a great place for you to find some people to work with.
Hey, oh, this is what I need. Yeah.
And you can actually be on Fiverr and actually try to find clients and stuff. It's just really, it's very, very, very saturated. A lot of what I've, not so much on maybe Fiverr, but there's another one called something Desk. I can't remember what it's called, but most of the people there are non-native English speakers, and it seems like they're all from maybe Asia. and they are like just doing these as fast as they can. Like the ones I've interacted with will kind of like promise you the world and then try to get it out to you as quickly as possible because they're so cheap. They need to do a whole lot of them instead of being more expensive. But yeah, so when you think about it, like, you know, subscription to, or if you can like download the software like legally, that's free. So like making stuff like this doesn't really cost you anything, just costs your time. So anyways, so that's Fiverr. I think it's great. They also do like voiceovers and stuff. I don't know what this voiceover was for, but you can give them a script.
Your Highness?
Oh, I thought you said that you called him.
We're about more than providing you with the best product available. For more than 40 years, Texas Feed Fat has been committed to supporting our community and treating our customers like family. Texas Feed Fat
But you got to like be careful. Like listen to how he says family.
and treating our customers like family.
Founder.
Texas Feed Fat is a proud sponsor of the Spicer Grit Memorial Roping.
Huh?
Oh, double.
WT, no, it's W.
I know, and I kept trying to like message her back and be like, I didn't know how to describe it either. Like, it's like, can you please like not enunciate so well?
That's
It's like she'd be like, here at WT, egg. And I was like, hey.
No.
Like, you're right, that's so silly. Come on.
Like,
Oh, here, this guy pronounces Hereford wrong.
Hereford.
BJM Sales is proud to have been a supporter of the Spicer Grit Memorial Roping from the beginning. 3925 US Highway 60 in Hereford.
You think that he would have like looked it up?
Well, and I immediately went back to him and he fixed it.
BJM Sales is proud to have been a supporter of the Spicer Grit Memorial Roping from the beginning. 3925 US Highway 60 in Hereford.
So he's like, I'm going to be sure this is right, and you're going to hear it. Hereford. So,
Hereford.
yeah. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop back into some more technical aspects of podcasting and how to actually set it up.
Can I have this PowerPoint?
It's on WT class.
Is it?
Okay, so I just looked at, I'm pretty sure it's on there. I was just, so because it's break time, and cause I was afraid, I was like, on the top. I knew it would be on there, so it was good timing.
Okay.
But I didn't go there anyway, but I definitely don't
A
know.
lot of people are. This was a fantastic marketing scheme.
It really is. It is.
Because people are going to go there. Some people are going to go there thinking that they're getting that burger,
But they're not.
but they're not because it's going to be like specially packaged.
Limited time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
because Burger King sucks. Like, it's really not good anyway.
Oh, yeah,
No,
good.
name one time.
That's why they're doing all this, to try to get more customers.
Yeah.
'cause
You
it's
know what?
stressful.
Their chicken fries are good.
You sound like a kid. Don't say that.
You said one time, and I'm like.
You're fired up.
Yes. This isn't even about the commercial. It's because Burger King is horrible.
Yeah,
Burger
Burger
King
King's-
is not good.
Yeah, not good.
And I'm just so mad that they built a new Burger King in Canyon a few
Yeah.
years ago instead of literally anything.
There's
else.
one in Hereford.
There's one, a new one in Hereford,
Yeah, there
yeah.
is.
Why? See, you know what? They're gonna. I hope.
Third.
The only other.
If we
thing
see
that would've been more
Burger
fun to
King
build
burnt
than
down
Arby's.
tomorrow, we know who it was.
Fire.
We know to
There's
blame.
no lemongrass haters.
Okay, so let's get through this so we can dip out a little early if you want to go help. Okay, podcast length and frequency. So how frequently should you post your podcast? This kind of determines, or frequency is very dependent upon the content. Okay, so essentially, just a good rule of thumb is if you have 40 minutes worth of content to go over, you should not plan for your podcast to be an hour long. So think about how much content you have and plan accordingly. This is like just a nice kind of cheat sheet to help you figure out your podcast frequency. So if you're going to do it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, daily, this is kind of maybe a good thing to go by. I like this one. Annually, that's not podcasting. So you have to keep some type of consistency going. I know some podcasts that will do twice a week and each time during the week. So like Monday will be something about the news, and Friday will be something about entertainment. So it's two different sections under the same podcast. So just be sure that you're cognizant about the content that you have, and don't try to make up content or add bad content just to hit a certain time length.
It's a very catchy song. It's really
I know, it's stuck in my head.
I'm waiting for him to hit puberty so he can't do the stupid singing anymore. 'Cause then he's-
Okay, let's talk about outlines. So essentially, your content is going to be sandwiched between an introduction and an outro. But within the meat, the middle section, you need to be doing certain things, like introducing yourselves or selves. I listened to a podcast that a couple of people that I went to high school with, they're both girls and they both sound very similar. And they never introduced themselves. They've started to now, but the first 15 episodes they didn't. So you never knew who was talking. So always introduce yourselves. Another reason you should always introduce yourself is so that you say your name and your brand over and over and over, because it's important to get your name out there. Also, please introduce the podcast every single time, because you never know when you're going to have new listeners subscribe. They're not going to start from the beginning. They're going to start from your newest episode. So introduce the podcast some way. You can kind of, if you want to not always introduce it the same way, the first episode, first 2 or 3, spend a significant amount of time on it. And then after that, you can maybe provide an abbreviated version for the next 4 or 5 episodes. And then, periodically come back and give the full description again, so that if somebody does hop in at your newest episode, they can have a better chance of getting the full description. Does that make sense? Topic or segments. Always introduce the topics or the segments when they happen. So within the podcast, there might be a listener question, and so they'll take questions from people that listen to the podcast. So when that happens, you can have some type of song or gimmick or thing that you always say to introduce it. So try to be consistent, try to be fun, try to be entertaining when you're introducing these new topics or the established topic or segments that you have. So another one might be to look at the news and find an interesting piece of the news that day that you can discuss. And so ring a cowbell and be like, oh, it's the news section or something. I don't know. And then you have the outro. Always thank your guests. If you do have guests, ask them what they want to promote. Because this is a way for them to get some publicity. You're not going to be paying them. And so they have to get get something out of this. So ask them what their social media is. Do they want people to follow them? Are they selling something? Do they have a website that you want them to go to? So thank the guests. Ask them what they want to promote. And then call to actions. This one's really important when we talk about convergence. We need those people to migrate to everything else. So like me on Facebook, subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And then for the podcast itself, leave a review. Always tell them to leave a review, because the more reviews you have and the higher rating that you have, the more likely that your name will get out to other people, other listeners. If you want people to email questions in, if you want them to buy merch, whatever it is, you need to develop a strong list of call to actions. A list, not one, a list. And then the last one are acknowledgments. So let's say you went to a local musician like Mitchell Ford, and you're like, hey, Mitchell, can I use one of your songs for the intro to my song? I'll give you a credit at the end of the podcast. Or if you say, hey, Grace, can you make a cover art for me? I'll give you the credit in the acknowledgement. So at the end, you can say, so-and-so podcast was produced by me, And so. The cover art was designed by Grace Smalls, and the introduction music, or the intro music, was provided by Mitchell Ford. Cool? So the introduction and the acknowledgments segments can be things that you record once and reuse over and over and over again. Okay, do you have any questions on that? Okay, real quick.
What's your favorite podcast?
Mine is, so it's a music one. It's not like a talking podcast, but his name's DJ Stonebridge. And yeah, Stonebridge. He's like from England or something.
Oh, she?
He.
Oh, I thought
No,
you said
DJ.
that was a fun plot twist.
No, there's not a lot of female DJs out there. But another one that's funny that does talk is Best Friends. And do y'all know the lady from Nailed It, Nicole Byer? Yep, you know Nailed It on Netflix. So it's her and another person, and they're like best friends, and they just talk about random stuff. Okay, so let's talk about equipment. So, like, at a bare minimum, what do you think you need?
Microphone,
No, bare minimum.
a computer.
A voice, a phone.
A phone, a voice,
Or like
and something to edit with.
technology.
Yeah.
So you can actually, I have, on your iPads, you have GarageBand. You don't even need, you really don't even need a computer. You have GarageBand right there, right?
What are the steps after, or, like, how do you get on?
I will teach you that.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to cover that?
I guess. I mean,
Do you feel, okay.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great. Okay, so like bare minimum, that's what you need. Honestly, you could probably just do it off your tablet if you had good audio off your tablet. Okay, so let's go to the next, just the next level up. So like next level up, just like one small like half step is you can get a mic for your iPad or for your phone. So this is going to be a condenser mic, and so condenser mics are great for your voice, especially whenever it's close to the source. And it's directional, so it'll only pick up your voice, and will try to eliminate everything that is not your voice. Like if it's pointed at my mouth, it's not going to pick up anything behind it, and it's not going to pick anything above, below, left, or right. That's a condenser directional mic. So that's like one little step up. Okay, if we're going to go and we want to take the audio and directly put it on to the computer, you're going to need a USB interface. This is the one that we have upstairs. This one has two inputs, and you literally use a USB cord and plug it into the computer.
They just have a microphone that's extra cable.
Yep. So yeah, these are XRL inputs right here. So those mics can vary in price. You can have a handheld mic like we do out in the arena and just hook it up. But this is kind of that next step up. This also allows you to monitor. So right here you have like your headphone jack. So one person can listen to the levels. So
That's the single input one.
what?
I said Dr. Best one's a single input.
Oh, she does?
So,
Yep.
as far as price, is that like high and low, middle of the road,
For this,
the interface?
this one's pretty cheap. You can even do the single one, which is even less expensive. The single one is 109. Okay, so let's take a look at mics. Rode is a fantastic brand. So here's one that's for podcasting for like $100. This one is a little bit more. This is similar to the one that we have This is the one we have upstairs. The kit comes with everything that you need minus the stand. has the XLR cable, has a pop filter. So pay attention to this phantom power. Some require phantom power. That just means that it has to have a higher voltage of power going to it to power it. Something like this doesn't necessarily need more power. Does that make sense? So like if we took the mic that we plug into our phone, it doesn't need a lot of power running to it. But this one does need more power running to it.
But it can go through the XLR cable.
What?
But it can go through the XLR cable.
Yeah, that's where the power runs, is through the XLR cable. Yep. Okay. So the next thing that I would suggest, if you have, let's see.
Maybe like a mixer.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly what the one that I bought was called.
Oh, that tiny black one?
The tiny little black box.
I do not remember.
Okay, so the next thing I would suggest, if you have two people or more than one, you want to provide that person with the option. So like, let's say I have my headphones on and I can hear myself and the host. It might be too loud to me, or I might not want to hear myself at all. And so there's a little box and it has 4 mic input or 4 headphone jacks. And you can individually turn down your headphones. It's like $30, I think. So it's more of a convenience for the person, for when you have more than one person. It's literally like a black box with 4 little knobs on it. But anyways, that would be that would get everything we've talked about now, kind of get you up to what we have upstairs. I think it works great. I don't think you'd really need any more than what we have. The last thing I will talk about, especially now since we're at coronavirus, Squadcast is a great platform to use. It's kind of like Zoom, but it will provide you with lossless audio. What does lossless mean? If y'all remember back to
Is there like
media
no
design.
wait time in between? Is that what it is? It's like,
No. Well, that's one of Zoom and Squadcast helps with that, but lossless. So when we take a picture and we upload it to Photoshop and we save it as a JPEG. JPEG is a lossless format. I'm sorry, JPEG is a lossy format. When it saves, it will delete some of the data that it thinks we don't really need.
oh, gotcha.
And so when we're listening to people on Zoom, it will delete some of the audio that it thinks we don't need. And so in some cases, yeah, we may not need, some of the audio, like pieces of the data.
I found it.
What's it called?
Olson HMA-4 channel stereo.
Yeah, so something similar to this is what we've been talking about. So like if Mallory's on mixer 1 and I'm on mixer 2 and she doesn't want to hear a whole lot, she can turn hers down. But if I'm mixing it and I want to be sure I'm getting all the audios, I can turn it up a little bit. But yeah, so Squadcast, lossless, it's a great option. In the past, we had to do some really funky stuff to try to get audio, but now I think stuff like this tools like this are becoming more readily available, especially now since everyone has to do things at a distance. Wait, any questions?
Adobe Audition? Yeah.
What about it?
I'll just use that for audio capture.
Yeah, you can use Adobe Audition to capture the audio. It's very simple. You tell it that you have 2 tracks. There's a drop-down menu and you say, okay, Scarlett, or your USB input mic 1, USB input mic 2, and it will separate the mics out.
And you can import directly into Premiere.
Yes.
If you edit with that.
Okay, so here's what I want y'all to do over the weekend and come back on Monday. So I'm going to give you 2. They're exactly the same. They're just printed differently. But I want you to listen to a podcast, and I want you to fill this out. So what's the concept? Who are the hosts? What is their upload frequency? And did they have any guests? And then I want you to provide like a quick down and dirty outline of what they covered, and then what call to actions they provided. On the other one, I want you to come up with a concept. I want you to figure out who your host might be, your frequency of when you might upload, and then a brief outline, and then a call to action. Cool? Is that doable? And then Hadley, where's the filming happening?
Old Main 233.
So Old Main 233 at 10, if you can go. I know they would appreciate it.
I think some of it's going to be for the website.